Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us once again for our Poverty Task Force monthly webinar. This month, we are going to be talking about services for immigrants and refugees, specifically integrating them into the workforce. As you know, um, my department here in the state of Michigan, the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, also has the Office of Global Michigan. And one of our real goals, the governor has set a goal to try to boost our the number of residents we have in the state of Michigan, to be intentional about repopulating our state. And one strategy that we have not backed away from is embracing immigrants and refugees. We are a state that is welcoming, and to that end, when they get here, when our friends and neighbors from other parts of the world and country come to Michigan, we want to be able to make sure that they are getting um, having employment. We know the dignity that employment imbues people with. So we want to make sure that we're giving them every kind of wraparound service, resources, and access to employment that we can. So we really wanted to talk to one of our employers in the state that has been so intentional about being a welcoming workplace for immigrants and refugees, and kind of hear from them about how they've been able to be successful on that front. And we could not have thought of a more successful partner than Peckham. And we're so happy to have with us today Emily McElmurray, who has, I think, a beautiful Irish name that I promised not to stumble over and did anyway, who is the Director of Vocational Services at Peckham. She's been working in the field of vocational rehabilitation for over 10 years in public, private, and nonprofit sectors, including a stint right here at Leo well, it was Leo. It was not Leo probably back then, but it is now part of Leo, Michigan Rehabilitation Services, which is now part of the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. She currently serves as the Director of Vocational Services at Peckham, where she leads a team of vocational rehabilitation professionals working with youth and adults with disabilities. She has a passion for helping others reach their full potential, and has dedicated her career to helping individuals with disabilities find meaningful employment. She has a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling from Michigan State University and a BS in communication disorders from Central Michigan University. And she is a certified rehabilitation counselor and a licensed professional counselor, and has a passion for guiding employers to include people with disabilities in their diversity and inclusion initiatives. So I'm actually going to turn everything over to Emily, who's going to make a presentation. And then if you have questions, please post your questions in the chat, and I'd be happy to pose them to Emily after her presentation. Emily, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kim. I really appreciate the intro, and note to self, got to shorten that bio.
No, it's perfectly fine.
I'm like, that's way too long. Okay.
No, you want people to know your credentials, and your credentials are very impressive. So you're fine.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for the time to speak here on behalf of Peckham. So I have been working with Peckham for 13 years now as Director of Vocational Services. And what that means is we are my department partners heavily with Michigan Rehabilitation Services, community mental health, as well as local schools. And so my domain is primarily towards getting individuals with disabilities into work outside of Peckham. My cohort and colleagues and peers in the Human Services Department, we're kind of split up by who we partner with. So my other colleague partners with the courts and works with adjudicated youth and then adults coming out of the prison system. And my other colleague works at the local Michigan Works here, where Peckham holds the contracts for those services. So Peckham's kind of embedded our human services programming kind of throughout the Tri-County area here. We also have human services programs in Genesee County, and we just opened up services for adjudicated youth in Washtenaw County as well. Um, I'll just dive right in if that's okay. For those of you who aren't aware, Peckham is a nonprofit company here that started off in the Lansing area. Our mission is to provide opportunities for people to strive towards independence, self-sufficiency, and grow their human potential. We do that through having a mix of employment opportunities through federal contracts and our human services programs. We treat everyone as individuals here, regardless of where they came from. And everyone who comes in through our doors to work on our contract is given an intake interview where we're assessing their skills, abilities, barriers, and barriers can be very broad, just as the word is, to see what resources they need either at Peckham or outside of Peckham. I added this slide last minute because I was doing some research and talking with Olivia, and I said a lot of what we do is directly aligned with one another. So I wanted to share our core values. And these core values were a work in progress over several years, but we wanted to make them feel like things that roll off the tongue nicely. So we believe that different is awesome. People matter to us a whole lot. Everyone should have the freedom to thrive. We are always embracing the end. We believe that we's the password. We believe in doing great work and being proud of the great work that we do. And by having those values instilled throughout our business and human services programs, you can see how that fosters a universally accepting environment for anyone who will walk in through our doors. So what is Peckham? What do we do? How do we exist? Why do we exist? We started in 1973, and we were doing fee-for-service work with the state of Michigan. Over the next 30 years, we expanded and became part of the Ability One program, which is a United States Commission that reports directly to the President of the US. That is an entity where all the departments of government can come together and say, hey, we have these jobs that we want people with disabilities to work on. So much like think women owned, think Black owned, think LGBTQ plus owned, right? We've got the federal government supporting people with disabilities in work. Through that, we're partnered with Source America. So we are the nonprofit agency in that third box down. We partner through Source America to help procure those contracts. And then our customers are the federal government. So we have to maintain a 75% disabled labor ratio on all 5 of our contracts or social enterprises that you see here. So when you think Peckham jobs or what is my client going to do if they apply for a job at Peckham, they can apply for a job in one of these 5 areas. Contact Center Solutions, which partners with USDA, Department of Defense, Customer Interaction Center. If you call the number on the back of your passport, the 1-800 number, you will be speaking with a team member from Peckham. We employ close to 2,000 individuals just in Contact Center Solutions alone. Our manufacturing department was our first one of our first contracts that we have. If you come and visit us in the Lansing area, we're producing military garments and equipment, mostly like jackets, rucksacks, things like that. We have a smaller operation in Genesee County as well there. We also do third-party logistics or in fulfillment. So we're storing organizational clothing and industrial equipment for the government in many warehousing spaces in Lansing. I believe the statistic is we've got close to 2 million square feet of warehousing space here in the Lansing area. Custodial services is our fourth line of business. If you work in a state of Michigan building in downtown Lansing, there's a high likelihood that your custodial colleagues are actually Peckham employees. So we've got those opportunities there. And then we also have a farm here in Lansing. And then we recently acquired a lettuce farm in Caledonia, Michigan. So if you go to Meijer and you see the box lettuce, it says Revolution Farms. It's actually Revolution Farms by Peckham. It's great lettuce. But all jokes aside, these are our 5 lines of business that support our human services programs. So who do we serve? I know, we're talking about the ALICE population. This is the Poverty Task Force. It's no secret that there are a lot of disabilities present in those populations that we're all serving. At Peckham, because we are working with the federal government and maintaining that we're employing people with disabilities, we actually have to collect disability documentation on the individuals that we serve. So this is the 23-24 breakdown of primary disability. And this is across all 5 lines of business. We employ close to 3,000 team members on our 5 lines of business. Everyone's making above minimum wage. Most of our call center positions are making $20 an hour and upwards. So we collect primary disability documentation on individuals. We have to determine if their disability is a barrier to them finding a job and keeping a job. So I like to give the example of, I have anxiety. I take medication for anxiety. My anxiety is pretty well managed and I can come to work every day and be productive. My client has anxiety. He has post-traumatic stress disorder because he left a war-torn country and is now here. He's got all of his diagnosis from a doctor just like I do, but he's too scared to come in the building. He needs a little bit more work before he can feel psychologically safe in the building. I would not qualify for Ability One, but that individual would. So I just like to give that breakdown here. And again, those are primary. Most of our individuals have multiple disabilities, just like most humans. So our model, we're founded on vocational rehabilitation. We've found that with vocational rehabilitation comes barrier removal. So we're not just addressing the disability and the barriers related to that. We know that the whole person comes to work and there's social barriers, personal barriers, familial barriers that they're bringing with them. And then we pull in employment into that as well. And so we feel that if we can balance between the individual, their vocational goals, their disability barriers, their other barriers they're working through in employment, we feel that we're addressing the whole person. And we developed our social enterprises based on the populations that we're serving. So when we first started in custodial manufacturing, that was great. We were getting folks in the door. Since Lansing is a welcoming community, we were working with a lot of folks who were resettling. It was also during the tech boom, and people were saying to us, like, we would love to work in a call center. We'd like more technology in our jobs. And so we tailored our portfolio to match the community's needs on what they were looking for in employment. So with that wide variety, we're able to serve a multitude of individuals with varying barriers. So it's not rocket science. There's a huge intersection of disability and the refugee experience, right? And you can see now that I've kind of described what we do at Peckham, how we are able to also mutually serve refugees or folks who are coming into the Lansing area. Unfortunately, their individuals do have disabilities, both mental and physical health issues and challenges. We've learned over time that refugees' unique needs require us to be connected with our community, be in partnership with local agencies that help support those. And what we have at Peckham that I completely forgot to mention until now is everyone who comes in and works on one of those 5 lines of business receives or is assigned to a case manager, essentially. We refer to them as vocational services specialists, but they're really case managers, and they're helping that individual set annual goals towards their employment or even outside of work. And that individual can help them with crisis management and access to resources. One of our points of pride at Peckham is that we have over 44, or I'm sorry, we have 44 languages spoken here. That's the actual list of the languages that are spoken here. And so what we've found is once we have one person who speaks Vietnamese, it makes it easier for the next person who speaks Vietnamese to come in here, because we're able to start to kind of build the arsenal of folks who can speak that language, who have learned Peckham, and then can help kind of spread the word. It's interesting, I wanted to mention that our partnership with the Department of State for the passports had heard of what great work we were doing. And so if they had family members or community members or knew of resettlement initiatives, they would often suggest Lansing because Peckham is here and we've got such a diverse workforce. So how do we support such a diverse workforce? 44 different languages is wild. We have a few of our case managers that speak different languages. We have a case manager that communicates with American Sign Language. We've got case managers that speak Spanish, Nepali. We've got a lot of our team members over time have experienced upper mobility and are supervisors now. And so we've got supervisors that speak multiple languages. But beyond just that verbal communication, Peckham does a great job at making our spaces universally accessible and acceptable. We prescribe to the concept of universal design. And so if you come into our space, you'll see that it's very easy to navigate. There's natural light everywhere. There's color coding in all of our buildings so that you don't have to be able to work up the courage and find the English words to go up to your supervisor and say, how do I get to the bathroom, right? We give people the color coding at orientation so you know the maroon walls are bathroom walls. The green walls are access points. And in our orientation, everybody usually always brings, or we're able to provide an interpreter. I put a picture here. This is our peace room. So prior to moving into this building in 2010, we had your traditional manufacturing building and space. And as you know, the world's largest religion is the Muslim religion, and we had individuals that we were accommodating prayer time for, and there was nowhere for them to go or pray, and they were just kind of making their way wherever they needed to pray. And so when we did our town halls and asked the community of folks at Peckham what they needed, it was very clear that we needed a non-denominational space for individuals to go and pray if they need to, have some space to decompress. It's a completely non-denominational room, but it is set up to accommodate, facing west. We've got the peace lilies in there. And so every time I give a tour, I'm like, how many of you have ever been to a manufacturing plant that's got a peace room? And usually the answer is no, nowhere. We've never been anywhere. So we try to take into account what our team members' needs are and make this a space where they can meet all of their life needs while they're here. I also forgot to mention we have a male and female foot washing station outside of the peace room. We also do a lot of picture instructions and guides. And we utilize, of course, our partnerships in the community for translation services and rely heavily on 7C lingo and language line. In addition to that language support and partnering with local agencies, all of our staff are trauma informed, have taken trauma informed training. And we know that the person who shows up at work could be a completely different person on their first day than they are in their 90th day. And it's all dependent on our life history and where we're at with that. We provide flexible scheduling as needed or as we're able to. And then we also have multiple training opportunities with which we've partnered over the years with a variety of folks in the Lansing community for like ESOL classes, citizenship classes. We do math classes because I think most of the world uses the metric system. And so when you get here, you're like, what is this standard measuring system you guys are using? So we try to provide as much as we can in-house here to help people be successful. Another thing that we do regularly is we're offering career pathways. So in each of our 5 lines of business, and we've been working on building them for the last 5 years, but we want people to have a place to go as they spend time here. We don't want people to come in and stay and work in the same job in the same step. We want that meaningful employment. So we have career pathways in each of our lines of business so that people can see where they can grow, which has been really transformative over the last few years. I mentioned our intake and eligibility team. We also have a team called community engagement. And what that team does is they partner with local agencies to help with recruitment. They are the team that knows pretty much the ins and outs of all the minimum requirements for all of our jobs, which are posted on our website. So any of your friends, families, clients can go and look and see what we've got posted. But that team will specifically say, like, this job is not the best fit for folks who have an extensive theft background, working with the Department of State. And it is important to know, since these are federal jobs, federal contract jobs, individuals do have to be legal and have documentation for work to be hired in. And so we can work with agencies on, if folks are in the process of getting documentation, partnering with the community engagement team, we can kind of keep track of where our individuals are at in their process. And then when folks are ready to join or apply for Peckham, then it's kind of a smoother transition there. Additionally, with the intake and eligibility team, we are assessing if those individuals need more support than Peckham can provide. And so in that instance, we'll look at our network and say, it's before you come to Peckham, we recommend you connect with Michigan Rehabilitation Services or DHHS or get established with a physician, things like that. So our CEO likes to refer to the three-legged stool concept and how we support, the population of folks that need support, so employment support like Peckham. And what we really try to do and live and breathe is we focus on the three areas of physical health, mental health, and employment. And we know that if one of those stool legs is missing or not strong, needs some improvement, the stool is not going to be functional. And so we do things like provide medical and dental vision insurance. All of our team members get paid time off. There's no real difference between the benefits that the team members have and what staff have, because we're all humans. So they also qualify for retirement, the free training programs. And lastly, because I'm not sure who all's on the call, but if you are considering, expanding your expanding your outreach, we are always really intentional on partnering with public transportation. 9 times out of 10, transportation is the biggest barrier for individuals. And so most all of our sites are on a bus route, with the exception of our site in Clinton County, but that's where we partnered with CATA and E-Tran and Clinton County Transit. So that's just kind of my plug for public transportation. If there's anyone on the call or anyone who has partnerships there, making public transportation easier for the general public will only boost our economy here. And then lastly, I just wanted to give a shout out to these partners, the RDC, the Catholic Charities, and IRRC. We host and partner with them here. We've had specific job fairs when new initiatives come through. So like 6 years ago when we had our Afghan neighbors, a large influx of individuals from Afghanistan come here, we put on a job fair. We partnered with Resource Spares, and then we certainly utilize Catholic Charities as well there. But we're open, Peckham, we're open to being creative with partners. If you see a need for more explanation in your organization on what Peckham does and how we can partner, feel free to reach out to me, or our website is new, so our contact us page is really effective. But we're not like a set in stone company or organization. We are always shifting and adjusting based on what our community needs and what our partners need. So this is my virtual open door to any of you on the call to, reach out and see if there's a way that we can collaborate. So that's all I've got for today.
I just realized I was muted. Emily, thank you so much. That was, Peckham is such a inspiring organization. I will say I had an opportunity to tour a couple of your facilities in the Lansing area, and I was just so incredibly impressed in about how intentional, um, even the architecture, how you design your spaces, to really embrace the diversity of your workforce. It's really impressive. So I'm glad you had the opportunity to share some of the ways that um, you carried that out, that value of being inclusive out in your day to day treatment of your workers. So um, I do have a few questions that were in the chat, if you
Sure.
wouldn't mind. And I think you spoke to this, but one of the questions is, how do you work with individuals that have English as a second language, especially those other than Spanish?
Yeah. Yeah. We do a lot of pictures, and honestly, we rely on our workforce a lot to help with training. Most of our training team and supervisors have been team members themselves. And so we just kind of hold a family vibe, quite honestly, and we all just help out when we can. We also utilize language line a ton, and that's very helpful. And then we try to remove conversational English from as much as possible on some of the jobs. So
Mm.
that's also helpful for people who, you know, are born
Have
in the US
issues.
but have reading difficulties or learning difficulties or social difficulties. And so it's more than beneficial for just non-English speakers.
Yeah, I remember you just saying, even the color of the walls, the way you paint the colors of the walls to signal certain kinds
Yes.
of rooms. Yeah, I mean, that's really
Yeah, and
innovative.
I forgot to mention, we have a huge emphasis on light in our building. And we know that light, especially as Michiganders, has a massive impact on our mental health. And so we try to infuse light wherever you are in the building.
I do remember that actually when I think about in my mind's eye, when I think about that building, I think about light. I think
Yeah.
about it being there weren't any dark spaces that I went into at least. So
Yeah.
it's nice to know that that was intentional.
Mhm.
Um, it- I don't know about whether the weather is always going to cooperate, but at least you can get some natural light, whether it's gray
Yeah.
natural light or
It's either
something a
gray
little
or
brighter.
regular.
Um, can you talk a little bit about so higher education obviously is something that we as a state really value. We're trying to get more of our residents to get those post-secondary credentials. I know because I have family members who are from Africa who moved here, and um, some of them actually had credentials back in their home country that were a little hard to get the full recognition for them here in Michigan. Can you talk about whether you do any kind of work to connect your immigrants and refugees you work with higher education opportunities or education opportunities at all?
Yeah. We so I forgot to mention that Peckham has our community partnership foundation. And through that, a lot of different initiatives have formed over the years. Um, we've had different programs with Lansing Community College over the years. We've had different apprenticeships. We are our sewing level, our sewing master craftsman level 3 is a Department of Labor apprenticeship. And then additionally, we have what's called the Higher Education Credit Attainment Program for team members who work full time. They're able to, I can read it right to you. It's a program with LCC, and they're able to continue their compensation at 40 hours a week, but allow them to work 30 at a reduced schedule. Um, to get that
Wow,
higher.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've got several team members who have taken advantage of that benefit there. Um, so yeah, we do that in all 5 lines of business, and yeah, they're able to reduce their schedule. And we also have a partnership with Davenport University for both staff and team members, where we can get a credit discount as well as a family discount as well. And then lastly, on a smaller scale, every team member that works at Peckham has a continuous improvement plan that is their progress is tracked and it's updated at minimum annually. And that doesn't have to be work related. And so if I'm a VSS or case manager and my team member has on their plan that they want to obtain higher education, it's my responsibility to work with them to figure out the pathway to get there. So
That's really, really impressive.
yeah.
Um, so, obviously people on this call have heard about all the great work you're doing, and they're asking questions about how they can be connected to Peckham, whether how people and organizations can connect to you. What's the
Yes.
best path to
Feel free to
connect with
drop
the
my email in the chat, but also I mentioned our website is brand new in the last 6 months, and our contact us page is more efficient than it's ever been. So there's actually drop downs there that you can pick the area you're interested in connecting with. So feel free to do that
Yeah,
as well.
awesome.
Mhm.
Just out of curiosity, and this is a question we have in the chat, what's the largest country of origin that's represented at Peckham? Do you know?
Yes, hang on. Country of origin, I can tell you language. Um, English, obviously. Then we've got 367 Spanish, 72 Vietnamese, 15 French, Farsi is a big one, Arabic, ASL, Burmese,
Mm.
Mandarin, Somali, Swahili. Those are our more than single digit numbers.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful. Um, so you talked about the Lansing area. Obviously, you have locations in Lansing itself, and then you talked about, um, I think you mentioned Clinton County. Are there other ways that people can participate who maybe don't live in those communities?
Yes. And I apologize. I did not tell you all of the communities that we're in because I kind of chopped up my PowerPoint for you all. So we are primarily here in the Lansing area. We have call centers in Battle Creek, Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Phoenix, Arizona, because we have to accommodate West Coast time, and
Mhm.
then London, Kentucky,
Ooh.
not England. Um, we also have manufacturing in Flint, um, the lettuce farm in Grand Rapids. We've got human services programs in Genesee County, Shiawassee County, the Tri-County here, and Washtenaw County. I think I got them all.
Wow,
If
okay.
I always like to just make sure people are aware of what Peckham is. And I have a lot of just community members reaching out to me weekly, monthly, like, hey, I have a question, my son this, or my neighbor that. Um, if you want to get in connected with human services programs, so separate from having someone work on our line of business, there's usually a referral pathway. So you either come from Michigan Works, local school districts, community mental health, the courts, or did I say Michigan Rehab Services? CMH comes through those pipelines usually.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we know that there have been a lot of changes to a lot of things because of the federal government has shifted some priorities. Can you talk about whether any of those changes have impacted the work that you do with refugees and immigrants at Peckham?
Yeah, over the years, really since 2018, it's just been kind of a gamble on the federal government. Um, when Lansing had quite a steady flow of refugees and immigrants, it was awesome. And just a reminder, we're not hiring individuals because they're refugees and immigrants. We're hiring people because they have barriers to employment.
Mhm.
So things were going really well, and a lot of refugees and immigrants actually had a lot of sewing and manufacturing experience. So it was like a match made in heaven. Um, when we saw the first Trump administration, and it was like zero refugees and immigrants coming to Lansing, like we felt that. Um, as of late, with the Trump administration, we've had we've been a longstanding AmeriCorps site for financial literacy, and AmeriCorps was poof gone. Same thing with some of our HUD programming. So it's just we're just kind of living on the edge like everyone else, but no specific like direct impact to a program related directly to immigrants and refugees.
Okay. Um, yes, unfortunately, my division here at Leo, the AmeriCorps, a lot of the AmeriCorps programming comes in through the Michigan Community Service Commission. So we definitely felt those cuts and the impact they will have on so many people.
I mean, we
Yeah.
were doing taxes for like hundreds of people every year that needed actual like real support.
Hmm.
It was tough.
That is tough. Um, so one question that I have, and then I think this may be our last question.
Mhm.
We usually wrap up by 2:55. Um, can you explain removing conversational English? I think I understood what you meant by that, that you try to limit. Maybe you can explain what you mean by that.
Sure.
Mhm.
So our sewing manufacturing jobs. If our training is, an hour-long training where Emily, who only speaks English, is going to give you, think of a user manual, right? I'm going to go through that user manual and train a group of non-English speakers on how to do the job. It's not going to be very effective. By removing conversational English and instilling only the English words that are vital to the training. So, needle, bobbin, pedal, right? Only limiting the amount of English to what is absolutely necessary. And what it does is it pushes our trainers and our supervisors to take time, observe, demonstrate, use other nonverbal cues to get the message across, pictures, videos. Um, it's more of a universal design approach to training and learning. Um, that's kind of our approach. I don't know if that answered the
Yeah.
question.
No, I understand. I think I do understand exactly what you mean. So, um, people like me who talk all the time, I
Yeah, we
sometimes
get out of our
get
training.
paid by the word. So you have to totally retrain myself so that I'm just using the basic words that they're going to need in order to do their job. And
Yes.
you're using a lot of pictures, as you said earlier, and that kind of thing, and in
Yeah.
training, and just trying to take, uh, yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
verbal instruction that is superfluous off the
yeah.
table.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's working with someone who doesn't speak English is the same as working with somebody, who can't hear or can't see, right? You still have to be
Hmm.
able to get the message across, and there are
Right.
plenty of ways to do that without actually using your words. With that
Yeah. No,
said, we use Google Translate a ton, and we're not perfect,
right. Oh
but
yeah.
we
Yeah.
try our hardest.
Yep. So there are a lot of great questions here.
Yes.
We're just running out of time. I guess there is just one that I'll ask you. If you have any guidance for um, families who are here on TD visas, and many of those women are professionals in their countries. Any guidance about that?
I am not the person for that,
Okay. Well, you
but
know
I
what?
can give
We did put your email
you.
address is in the chat. I
Mhm.
hate to overload you with a bunch of questions, but you may have colleagues there at Peckham who might be able to
Yes,
answer some of the questions that we didn't
yes,
get to. So, Emily,
sure.
thank you so much. This has been
Of
so
course.
helpful. Again, I am such a big fan of the work that Peckham does. We, as I mentioned, do have janitorial services
Yes.
from Peckham employees. They do an excellent job, very professional. And I think it's a great partnership. Uh, Thank you for taking the time to explain what it is you're doing, particularly at this moment in history, where maybe not everyone is as welcoming as we like to think we are here in the state of Michigan. We are very grateful that, to have partners like you, like your organization, that are working so diligently to make sure that Michigan remains this welcoming state, and that when people, we don't just welcome them to come to the state, but we want them to thrive once they're here. So thank you so much for everything that
Yes.
you're doing on that front.
Of course.
Um, I just want to remind everyone that we will be having our final PTF webinar on December 17th at 11:30 a.m. And we're going to be joined by the Michigan Association of United Ways. We'll be discussing their 2025 Alice report, and we'll be discussing the 2025 Poverty Task Force report. Long awaited, will be discussed at that meeting. So we're very excited about that webinar. We hope you will be able to join us. Again, that will be December 17th. Watch your email. We will send out invitations for that. Again, we want to thank Emily for joining us today, and for that information about Peckham. We will make sure that we pass along your questions to her. And if you are interested in getting updates about the work of the Poverty Task Force, um, we will have a link in the chat so that you can sign up for those updates. I thank you all so much for joining, and we hopefully will see many of you, if not all of you, next month on our next webinar on December 17th. Take care.